the Tuesday, December 18th, 2012 school board meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to ask you to join me in a moment of silence for the Sandy Hook Elementary School victims. Thank you.
Yeah, this is dead. No, this power cord is.
The school board reorganization meeting was held in early December, and I'd just like to announce the officers for 2013. Myself as president, Sal Coella as vice president, Kevin Dowdell treasurer, Cindy Vento as secretary, and our solicitors Lee Price. The chairpersons of the committees did not change, but just to refresh everyone's memories, chairperson of the athletic committee is John St. Ledger. Chairperson of the facilities, which includes safety and security, is Shane McMasters. Chairperson of food service and nutrition is Loretta White. Chairperson of education, which includes technology and communications, is Joe Tomarella. Chairperson of the finance committee is Kevin Dowdell. Chairperson of personnel committee is Sal Coella. Chairperson of the policy committee is Richard Zucco. And chairperson of the transportation committee is Tom McGuff. The representatives to our Forbes Road and Career Technical remains at John St. Ledger. The PSBS Legislative Policy Council, Sal Coella, and the Eastern Area School District, Loretta White. And our intergovernmental representatives are John St. Ledger and Sal Coella. Roll call, please.
Okay, Mr. Colella? Here. Mr. Dowdell?
Here.
Mr. Drake?
Here.
Mr. McGuff?
Here.
Mr. McMasters? Present. Mr. St. Ledger?
Present.
Mr. Tomarello?
Here.
Mrs. White? Here. Mr. Zucco?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. The board met in executive session on December 3rd, December 11th, and this evening, December 18th, to discuss matters of personnel, negotiations, and student confidentiality.
This one? No, it's the same one.
Approval of minutes. Recommend approval of the following meeting minutes. November 27th, regular board meeting. December 3rd, reorganization meeting. December 4th, athletic, education, policy, and discussion session. December 11th, transportation, facilities, and finance committee.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, this evening we have two student features. The first one is girls soccer with Coach Mike Proviano. Want to check the microphone and make sure it's on?
How about now?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'd like to honor today two of the members of the Lady Mustangs soccer team with all section honors. First one is Aaliyah Odom. She couldn't make it here tonight. She's actually in North Carolina visiting her family. Aaliyah had a great season. She's a junior. She scored 16 goals, had 6 assists for us. Looking forward to great things out of her next year. And before I bring up the next young lady, I'm just going to say a little bit about our team this year. We had a very successful season. We went 9-6-3 overall, made it to the playoffs for the first time in 10 years, which was a great honor for our girls. I was very proud of them and the work they put in this year. They worked hard all the way through camp and all the way to, a good effort in the playoffs. And last but not least, I'm going to announce Megan Reddick, first team all-section. Megan was a 4-year starter for us and a linchpin in the back for us. She was one of the best defenders in the WPIL. Megan will be going on to play at Edinburgh University. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Just another note, since we're at the school board, 28 of the 36 girls earned honor roll status, or 78%. That's another great accomplishment. Thanks. The next is Mike Bellino for the boys soccer team.
I'd like to thank the board for having us and recognize the boys tonight. I'd like to thank Mr. Alpino. I didn't see him here. He's probably at the game, I'd assume. We also had a good year. We made the playoffs for the second time in a row this year. A good team effort, 9-5-3 overall. I'd like to recognize 2 of our players. These are both seniors, and both these boys had a large part in our success this year. I'll talk about them both combined because they both are 4-year lettermen. They're both received all section and all WPIAL honors this year, and they both are on the academic honor roll this year. So they've been a very important part of the team, both leaders, both seniors, and I wish them both the best of luck. So first I'd like to call up Shane Rings. Come on up, Shane. And Matthew Bellino. Thank you, guys.
Wait, don't let them get away. We usually have the seniors tell us what they're going to do after they graduate.
Matt Bellino, I plan on attending WVU and majoring in finance.
I'm Shane Rings, and I plan on going to Duquesne and majoring in some kind of business.
Thank you.
And lastly, 20 of the 36 boys that were on the soccer team were able to earn a 3.0 GPA or better. Thanks.
We have an additional agenda item to add. I'd like to announce that before citizens' comments. The additional item will be under Personnel, B10. Recommend approval to set the substitute bus driver rate at $14.50 per hour, effective immediately.
At this time, we entertain citizen comments on agenda items. Any citizen comments on agenda items? Okay, we'll entertain citizen comments on non-agenda items.
Thank you. My name is Keith Nowak, 150 Nowak Drive, Pittsburgh, PA. Mr. President, Mr. Solicitor, administrators, teachers, parents, and fellow elected trusted servants, thank you for allowing me to speak. I come before you tonight as Plum Council's Chairman of Personnel and Intergovernmental Committees, and I have a current agenda update. Due to the unspeakable and ungodly act and crime committed against 20 innocent babies, where 6 heroic teachers and staff gave their lives to protect these and many more children, Plum Borough and every other town in the U.S. will never be the same. I want the school board administration, teachers, parents, and all the residents to know that our Plum Borough administration has already been directed to open up any and all dialogue with the school district administration and our Plum Police Force to address, improve, and ensure every student and teacher safety while in our care. This discussion and dialogue needs to be real, it needs to be effective, and it needs to be ASAP. As I am very confident our district takes every measure they can to protect our children every day. Society seems to be changing, and we as elected public servants need to stay ahead of the criminal curve. We do know there's little we can do to change any county, state, federal ordinance or laws, but we can open dialogue to change any borough ordinances and or school district policies our respective solicitors would agree upon. One topic I know we will discuss is the proven effectiveness and continued need of our Borough Police School Resource Officer Program. As I would never put a price on any of our children's safety, having a police officer in every school would be a huge financial accomplishment. The discussion will not end there. It is not out of the question, and there are many other avenues to pursue so that someone in each school can equally defend against armed intruders. This is only one of the many topics and discussions we, the borough, want to engage in with the school district, and we offer any and all resources attainable from the borough for this purpose. Thank you all, and I'd like to close with a quote from 18th century British philosopher Edmund Burke. An event has happened upon which is difficult to speak, yet impossible to remain silent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your comments.
Are there any additional citizen comments on non-agenda items? The agenda, please.
Facilities Committee, Mr. Shane McMaster's chair. Recommend approval to accept the following use of facilities applications as listed.
I'll make that recommendation.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend approval of a right-of-way easement from Rico Incorporated to the Plum Borough School District at O Block Junior High School in the amount of $1.
I'll make that recommendation.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend approval authoring Plum Borough School District Administration to negotiate agreements with L.R. Kimball, Russo Construction, and PA Soil and Rock for the demolition of Adelaide Stevenson Elementary School and construction of a new elementary school at that site.
I'll make that recommendation.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I'm going to vote no on this because I do not think that it is the most fiscally responsible decision. I think what we ought to do is renovate Adelaide Stevenson to make it a 4-round building, and doing that we can save approximately $5 to $7 million, which can be put toward education, which is after all our first priority. Also, I worry about how long our students are going to have to be at Pivic. It took us an entire year to renovate our Pivic, to build our Pivic elementary school. And by the time we demolish the old Adelaide, does that mean that we're going to have to house our students in Pivic Elementary for 2 years, possibly 3? Also, we took $2.5 million from the budgetary reserve in order to help finance the project. And that means that we're going to end up in the year June 2014 with a $1,349,000 deficit. So my whole idea is that I think that the money that we save could be better put to use with educational programs. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, but I would note that the timeline for construction of a replacement elementary school at Adelaide is 18 months to 2 years, not 3 years. And the money that we have put together to pay for the construction cannot be used for the general operating budget. That is money that we borrowed for construction, money that's left over for construction, and bond issues that were issued for construction that have been refinanced. So doing a renovation with a possible $5 million savings will not help us with the current budget situation. That money can only be used for what it was borrowed for, which is school construction and renovation.
Well, I kind of disagree with that. I think originally the 2.5 that we took out was not voted on by the old board.
We simply had a resolution that we would not give back the $1 million that Mr. McGuff wanted to give back in tax money that we thought that we had passed that we should not have. So, and as far as the 2 or 3 years, I realize that we originally planned on doing it for 1 year, and I'm saying it's possibly 2 years. The reason I came up with the 3 is if you run into any difficulty. So it most likely will not be 3, but there's a scenario that it could possibly be 3. So, okay?
I believe that there's a significant economies in scale and scope in this project, and if you look at the numbers, the little bit of money of $7.5 million that we borrowed at $259,000 a year will bring us savings with this new school of $654,000 by the economies at scale of scope we would get by consolidating the 2 schools. So physically, it's a good thing for the taxpayers. It's wise use of the money. The money that we put aside in the post-war fund was taken or was taxed on the taxpayers to do things, to do renovations and to do building projects for the school, and that's what it's going to be used for. I think it's a wise decision to do, so I think the board needs to vote yes on it.
Well, you know, I kind of disagree with the 2.5, but I guess we're not going to, you know, ever come to an agreement on that. I mean, things, if you talk to anybody on the old board, in 2008 or 2009, the economy had not gone into disarray at that time. So I think if they had to do it again, they probably would not have. Things have changed. And if you're going to go by everything that the old board wanted to do, then we would have to renovate both Holiday Park and Adley, which we are not doing. And I agree that we need to close Holiday Park, so that savings would also be valid for the program of renovating Adley. So,
You know, this board, in the past 3 years, we have not had a tax increase in this borough. We've built a new school. We've come under budget in that school. There were significant savings there with minimal amount of change orders in that school. We refinanced bonds that we looked at. We made wise decisions on holding off on those bonds. We reaped millions of dollars more than we possibly could have. So physically, I think we've done everything right. No tax increase, building a new school. You know, and the best part about it, you look at our test scores. Our test scores continue to improve. So I think this is just another addition to doing the right thing at the right time in the right place. And I think it's good for the citizens, it's good for the students, and it's good for the taxpayers.
well, obviously, I disagree. I think we need to renovate, and I think that the money that we save should be used for education. As it is now, I'm worried about how many programs we're going to have to cut, how much, we're going to have to take out of our money that should be spent for education. So we'll see how that goes. I know as it is, we're saying now that we are in a deficit kind of situation. And really, the state has cut $1 billion in educational funding. So, I just think we're in a lot of trouble, and I don't think that this is the right way to go. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. But again, you can't take the construction money and use it for your operating budget. It has to be used for construction. We can't do that.
No, but we put it in there in the first place. We took it from our budgetary
It's
reserve.
there. You can't undo
Well,
that.
it's there now. No, you
Yes.
can't take it out now. I understand that, but I think it was a bad decision in the
Well,
beginning, so.
I think
Okay.
before I was on the board, I thought it was a bad decision to raise the taxes when they raised the taxes because they really didn't have a basis for it, but they did it anyway. So I can't go back and undo the past.
Well,
And-
as it was, there were some of us who voted against that, but it was
And-
passed by a majority of the board, just like this one is,
And
so.
The board has spent a lot of time reviewing the options that the previous board put in. Like you said, the economics have changed. We have the latest demographic studies, and frankly, I'm with Mr. Cull. I believe this is the best long-term value for the district, or I wouldn't vote for it. I mean, so
I'm sure
gonna
you
support
believe in
it.
what you're doing, Mr. Drake. I know you do, and so does Mr. Colella and everybody else who votes. But it's just a matter of a difference of opinion. And I know that, whenever we were building the new Pivot, there was a lot of dissent from members of this board and also, members of the community. And I kept the article way back from 2010 with some of the comments, where people were worried about us going over the fiscal cliff. And, you know, I just, the headline reads, Plum prepares for financial hit from new Pivot Elementary building. So I think there was a lot of dissension about that, and I just wonder, you know, about building another new one. Okay? Thank you.
But I think there's a good lesson to be learned from that, because once the board decided to build a new pivot, I don't think there was anybody on this board that was not behind it 100%, with our goal being to complete it on schedule and under budget.
And so will I. I mean, you know, if I'm outvoted,
Right,
I
and that's
certainly
my
would
hope,
not,
that
you
whatever
know.
the board decides, the board will be behind it 100%, and our goal will be to, if it's a replacement school at the Adley site, that we're going to build it on schedule and under budget.
well, I certainly would not, you know, would be with the decision of the board, but I just feel morally and fiscally that I have to express my opinion.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Recommend approval to pay for Pivot Construction invoices as presented.
I'll make that recommendation.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The Facilities Committee met on December 11th. Mr. McMasters will make this report.
I just wanted to take a moment to thank the administration and this board and our construction representatives for the tireless planning and replanning and option driving and looking at options with respect to new construction in our strategic facilities plan. You guys have done a great job. I'm excited about item A3 and the events that will be set in motion, you know, with a new Adlai Stevenson or a new school on the Adlai Stevenson site. That will set into course or into motion, and you know, potential elementary school closing, maybe 2 elementary school closings, possibly additions on other buildings. You know, we've talked about the middle school concept. We have some great ideas as a district, as an administration, that, you know, have been presented to this board for the long-term facilities plan, and I think we're certainly moving in the right direction and very excited. Thank you.
Thank you. The next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, January 15th at 6 p.m. in the high school boardroom. Personnel Committee, Mr. Sal Colella, Chair. Recommend approval to accept with regret the retirement of William Ellison, math teacher at O'Block Junior High School, effective the day after the last day of the 2012-13 school year.
I'll make that recommendation to the board.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend approval to accept the retirement of Rita Dethorn, special education paraprofessional at Plum High School, effective December 31, 2012.
I'll make that recommendation to the board.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend approval to hire Tammy Mahlmeister as a custodian, effective December 19, 2012, at the contracted rate.
I'll make that recommendation to the board.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend approval to hire Jack Bagley as a custodian at a date to be determined by the superintendent at the contracted rate.
I'll make that recommendation to the board.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend approval of the following maternity leaves. Nicole Pfeiffer, kindergarten teacher at Pivot Elementary School, beginning on or about May 28th, 2013 through November 12th, 2013. Erica Richmond, science teacher at O'Block Junior High School, effective on or about May 25, 2013 through the first 9 weeks of the 2013-14 school year.
I'll make that recommendation to the board.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend approval to amend the following maternity leaves. Susan Pinall, librarian at O'Block Junior High School, beginning January 28th, 2013 through June 2nd, 2013. Shannon Robleski, first grade teacher at Holiday Park Elementary School, beginning October 8th, 2012 through January 18th, 2013. Amber Soxman, special education teacher at O'Block Junior High School, beginning October 9, 2012 through December 21, 2012. Kelly Wickersty, SBIT teacher at Holiday Park Elementary, beginning November 12, 2012 through the end of the 2012-13 school year.
I'll make those recommendations to the board.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend approval of an unpaid leave in accordance with the Family Medical Leave Act for Sherry Klein, Secretary of Plum Senior High School, retroactive to December 5th, 2012 through December 7th, 2012.
I'll make that recommendation to the board.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend approval of an unpaid medical leave for partial days for William Sikora, bus driver, retroactive to October 13th, 2012 for a period not to exceed 1 year.
I'll make that recommendation to the board.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend approval to authorize a 2% salary increase for Dan Reinhardt, Assistant Transportation Manager, effective January 1st, 2013.
I'll make that recommendation to the board.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend approval to set the substitute bus driver rate at $14.50 per hour, effective immediately.
I'll make that recommendation to the board.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Education Committee, Mr. Joe Tomarillo, Chair. Recommend approval of the following overnight conferences and field trip requests as listed.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend approval to accept the voluntary informal dispositions for Student A and Student B.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The Education Committee met on December 4th, 2012. Mr. Tomarillo will make this report.
Thank you. Nothing further to really add. It was a short and sweet meeting. I would just like to wish everyone happy holidays and a happy new year, and be safe this holiday season. That's all.
Thank you. The next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, January 8th, 2013 at 6 o'clock p.m. in the high school boardroom. Finance Committee, Mr. Kevin Dowdell, Chair. Recommend approval of the Treasurer's Report and bill payments for November 2012 as presented.
I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Delinquent real estate taxes and fees collected by Andrews and Price for November 2012. Total amount collected, $78,185.44. Recommend approval to accept the November budget transfers as presented.
I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I went through the budget transfers. Most of the transfers were to cover special education, which oftentimes we don't know in advance where these costs are going to come up. And also there was some assessment appeals that we had to address. And there was $134,000 that was taken out of the contingency fund to pay for these budget transfers.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend approval to authorize the following business office functions. Use of facsimile signatures on the following accounts: general fund, payroll, general obligation, athletic, activity, and food service. Investment of funds by the Director of Business Affairs.
I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second that recommendation.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend approval to adopt the Act 1 resolution indicating that the Plum Borough School District will not raise the rate of any tax for the support of public schools for the 2013-14 fiscal year by more than the Act 1 inflationary index of 1.7% as adjusted.
I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
You may want to note that the adjusted rate will be 2.4%.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that would bring in approximately $500,000.
Can we, what does that mean to our millage?
It means that you're not going to go over that if you adopt this resolution.
Yeah,
I think
I'm
it's maybe
talking about
$500,000, roughly.
maximum increase.
I can tell you from the last audit, a mill brings in about $1,154,000, so it would bring in about close to $600,000. And of course, our assessments are moving because of all these assessment appeals. But if you do the math, you're around $600,000 if the board would elect to raise the 22.2 mills by 2.4%.
That would be a little, 5/10 of a mil, about half a mil,
Which would equate to approximately,
about 500 or $500,000 or $600,000.
no, based upon our average, home price, about $38. Is that right, Gene?
Well,
It was $38 last year. It's a little bit higher than that this year. And I can tell you, because the assessment number's moving, you would still be probably in the $40 to $50 range per household. Remember now, you have a lot of commercials, but the average is, the average residential is about $100,000. So that's where you'd be, the number that Mr. Dowdell calculated as a percentage applied to 100,000 for the average. And of course, if you've got a $300,000 house, it's going to be triple.
This is certainly square to my guiding principles, but, I also have to make sure that the community knows there's strong macroeconomic forces out there that we're going to have to contend with in this budgeting process. And this is going to be a very hard thing to continue to do, but I think we should do it. I think it's good for the taxpayers.
Thank you. Any additional discussion?
Yes, I just wanted to add, this is not saying that we have to raise taxes at that level. It's saying that would be the cap, and we're just going to the community and saying we wouldn't go beyond
right,
that.
that's the maximum, not the suggested or anything, just the maximum.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend approval to create an activity fund sub-account titled PHS Student Development with Robert Feckety as the unpaid sponsor.
I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend approval to advertise for the following bid items for the 2013-14 school year: athletic equipment and supplies, school buses, parts and tires, low sulfur diesel fuel, miscellaneous custodial and maintenance supplies.
I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I would just note that the low sulfur diesel fuel, we're still also going to go through the AIU consortium, so this should allow us to get the better deal depending on what bids we get. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The Finance Committee met on December 11th, 2012. Mr. Dowdell will make this report.
Yes, thank you. We reviewed the November tax collectors' reports and the revenue and expenses charts. The year-to-date revenues is about 65% of what was budgeted, and the expenditures are running about 35% of what we had budgeted. This is slightly behind what we've seen in previous years, but we're pretty close to being on target. Bond refinancing update. The funds of approximately $1,075,000 will be available on December 20th and will be deposited in the Capital Reserve Fund to be used for capital renovations and or additions. Budget updates. The consortium is now projecting a 10 to 15% increase in healthcare premiums for the 2013-14 school year. Additionally, the PESER's contribution increased again. This will be the third time since June that it has increased for the 2013-14 school year to now is 16.93%. Finally, the Allegheny County reassessment came in for Plum Borough. The Plum Borough was assessed at approximately $1.5 billion. This number will be used to calculate the real estate taxes for the 2013-14 school year. To prevent a windfall gain by the district, this may cause an adjustment to the millage rate to maintain a revenue neutral taxes. That's all I have.
Thank you.
The next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, January 22nd, 2013 at 6 o'clock p.m. in the high school boardroom. Policy Committee, Mr. Rich Zuko, Chair. Recommend approval to accept policy number 303.1, nepotism, as presented.
On behalf of the Policy Committee, I'd like to recommend this for approval.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The Policy Committee met on December 4th, 2012. Mr. Zuko will make this report.
This new nepotism policy, 303.1, was drafted and reviewed and was finalized and adopted tonight. Policy 915, school-affiliated organizations, is currently in the hands of the solicitor for legal review. Policy 606, tax collection, 607, tuition income, Policy 610, purchases subject to bid/quotation, Policy 611, purchases budget, and Policy 613, cooperative purchasing, were reviewed and discussed, and any revisions and/or questions were recorded and sent to the solicitor for review. Most, if not all, should be ready for approval in January. Also on the schedule for the January meeting will be Policy 614, payroll authorization, and Policy 615, payroll deductions. And the next policy meeting will be at the boardroom on January 8th, following the Finance Committee meeting. And that's all we have this month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Transportation Committee, Mr. Tom McGuff, Chair. The Transportation Committee met on December 11th, 2012. Mr. McGuff will make this report.
I just would like to say, I'd like to thank Mr. Colello. It was his suggestion that we take a look at alternate fuels. And one, which is centered really here in Western Pennsylvania, is natural gas. So we had a presentation about the possibility of equipping our fleet and integrating new buses in with the ability to burn fuels. The numbers were pretty dramatic, and certainly something that we need to take a further look at, because at current prices and relatively speaking, the equivalent of a gallon of fuel would be approximately $1.77. So we had an interesting first discussion on this, an interesting first look on this, and something hopefully that we can pursue even further in the new year.
Thank you. Athletic Committee, Mr. John St. Ledger, Chair. Recommend approval to hire the following coaches for the 2012-13 school year.
On behalf of the committee, I'll make that recommendation.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Recommend approval to accept the following list of 2012-13 spring volunteer coaches as listed.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that recommendation.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The Athletic Committee met on December 4th, 2012. Mr. St. Ledger will make this report.
Nothing much more to add, except that we will, beginning in the spring season, with the help of Bob Alpino and Mike Brewer, we've come up with a formal evaluation of all the coaches. So they'll get their expectation before the season starts, and then at the end we'll have a formal evaluation process, which is a good thing. And that's it.
Thank you. Food Service and Nutrition Committee, Ms. Loretta White, Chair. The Food Service and Nutrition Committee did not meet this month. Intergovernmental Committee, Mr. John St. Ledger, Chair. The Intergovernmental Committee did not meet this month. Forbes Road Career and Technology Center, Mr. John St. Ledger, Representative. There will be no report this evening. Eastern Area Schools, Ms. Loretta White, Representative. There will be no report this evening. Legislative Policy Council, Mr. Sal Colella, Representative. There'll be no report this evening. Allegheny Intermediate Unit Number 3, Mr. Tom McGuff, board member. Mr. McGuff will make this report.
We did not meet in the month of December, but I'd like to just take this moment on behalf of the AIU to wish everyone in our community and our district a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you. President's report, Mr. Andrew Drake.
Thank you. This has been a busy month in December with student performances, the beginning of the winter athletics season, and the first 2 waves of the Keystone assessments. Also note that the high school Make-A-Wish telethon will begin on December 21st. Earlier this month, the board met with 2 representatives of the teachers to discuss ways in which we might save costs with the upcoming budget and we also will be meeting with them later in January to continue these discussions. I'd also like to note that at the last discussion session, the board finalized the strategic plan portion for the facilities, and in January we'll be looking at the finance strategic items. In January we have a busy month. January 3rd starts the elementary STAR reading and math test. January 9th through 16th are the high school midterm exams. January 11th through 16th are the O-Block midterm exams. January 16th is the last day of the first semester. January 17th is a clerical day, no school. January 21st is Martin Luther King Day and then Service Day with no school. January 22nd, parents can review final grades and the electronic report cards. And then January 22nd and 23rd is a Keystone Literature exam. January is also National Mentoring Month and National Poverty Awareness Month. We'd also like to extend our congratulations to the high school faculty, students, and administrators on their selection for this year's AP District Honor Roll. This award is presented each year to districts that are able to expand access to AP courses to a more diverse group of learners while simultaneously improving performance. This year we had 85% of our AP exam scores in 14 curriculum areas exceed a score of 3 or above. As a reminder, there is no school December 24th through January 1st, and school will begin on January 2nd. And finally, on behalf of the Board of Directors, the administration, and all of the school district employees, we wish everyone a safe and happy holiday season. Please be careful as you celebrate the holidays. Thank you.
Announcements. A discussion session is scheduled for Tuesday, January 15, 2013, immediately following the Facilities Committee meeting in the PHS boardroom. The regular January board meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, January 29, 2013 at 7 o'clock p.m. in the Plum High School auditorium.
Motion to adjourn.
Just one thing. If I could just make one comment, Mr. Drake. We had a brown bag boycott here at the school district, and I guess boycotts occurred across the United States. And I'm very proud of our students because the USDA has made some changes to the Healthy Hungry Kids Free Act that we'll probably be seeing. More protein and more grains are going to be allowed into those diets, into those things. So it was a thing well worthwhile. And whenever you see that, and you can take pride, and I really commend the students. They did it right. It worked. The USDA listened to not only you, but a lot of other people across the United States. So hopefully you'll see some changes, and I'm not sure what that means, but they said that they are going to allow more proteins and more grains into your weekly meals and daily meals. So congratulations. I think you did a good job.
Thank you. One last board motion. Recommend approval to accept the superintendent's report as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now
Motion
we
to
can have
adjourn.
Second.
a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We're adjourned.